Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Molly. Ignore where that bit of hair is. Welcome back. If you're new here, I do book content here on YouTube. I do a mixture of Christian and non-Christian. The Christian slightly less so, although I keep trying to read it, but I am newer to it, so there's more secular mainstream books than there are Christian. So yeah, and I do other content that's related to that, whether that's book tags or the odd vlog, although I've not really done that many. I think I've done about 2, 3 at the most. So yeah, I basically just try and do a few different things, see what I like, because I'm quite new. Although I'm coming up to a year this year in September. I didn't realise it was that late. For some reason I thought it was July, but it's not, it's September, so there we go. So yeah, ignore all that, that's, I've got the books, dip that down and then you get to at least see the cover, kind of, it's fine. So, let's get into what I read in the month of June, because we are at that time of the month now. We're at the beginning of the next month, so I do my wrap up. I did forget my book journal, so hopefully I won't need to go and get it. So we'll have to see. But yeah, first I'm going to go talk about the not really readathon, but a Bible reading plan that Chantel is doing and invited all of us who follow her to also join in with, which is to read the whole Bible in 90 days, which is about 3 months. So I've been going through that. I read it with my eyes first, and then the second day I tried listening to it because I really struggled to get through it reading with my eyes. And that helped a lot, and I've basically just stuck with that since. So I've been listening to it, usually first thing-ish when I get up, thereabouts, which isn't always the morning with how many books we're reading. I can't remember what we're up to. I think we're in Chronicles now. Or are we in Samuel yet? No, Samuel's before, because Chronicles is the Kings. I think we're in one of the Chronicles, either 1 or 2 Chronicles, or after. I just can't remember. If I remember when I'm editing, I'll write it down so then you know where I'm up to as of filming this. So we've been doing that. And it's going well. I haven't missed a day yet, which is good. So that's always a plus. So now that I've done that, I'm going to get with, how should I do this? I'll go by challenge, I think, with my yearly challenges. Did I do any readathons? I don't think I did any readathons. No, I did. I did read historical fiction. Did that as a readathon. Maybe I'll start with that because that's just for the month. Right, let's find it. Here we go. Okay, so I joined in with a historical readathon that was hosted by Shelley, Charlotte, Melinda, Brittany and Gloria. And I heard it initially from Gloria because I'm following her from last year's Historiathon. So the others were all new to me. So I'll link them all down below. And they all basically gave a prompt from each of them. So there's only about 5, I think, yeah. And I did what I could. I basically just partly double up because they didn't say you couldn't, I don't think, from what I remember. If they did, I apologise. Either way, if that was the case, I would not have finished. I did just about finish it. Let's go by book. So I had to DNF one of the books, and that was The Secret Life of William Shakespeare by Jude Morgan. Yeah. Basically, I just found it really boring. I found it really slow because there's nothing exciting going on. It's probably your classic historical fiction where there's no sort of thing happening like you do with, say, a World War II one, where, you know, you have some sort of thing happening, you know, staying alive, you know, saving the books, whatever. Like, there's nothing actually happening. It's literally just the life of Shakespeare, but it's a sort of not a reimagining, but obviously we don't really know that much about the actual person of Shakespeare. In fact, it's even contended that he didn't exist, or that he was a woman, all sorts of different theories. So this is basically one author's imagination of what his life was, basically. So this starts from when he's in his, I think about 18, and then goes on from there. I don't know how much further because I didn't finish it. So I've not given it a rating. It's just one of those things where some people will really enjoy it. I just didn't. And I did give it my hardest try. I got to about 60% or near enough. Yeah, so I was on 59%. So I was just over 200 pages because it's also a 400-page book or just over. So it's quite a big book. And I wasn't interested. It was just, I don't know what it is. I was just bored, really. I didn't really care about what was happening to any of the characters, including William Shakespeare. So I just had to DNF it. I tried, but I had better things to be trying to read. So I had to DNF that one. But I did use that one for a historical about a famous, remarkable person. Historical about the arts, because obviously William Shakespeare, if you don't know, was a playwright and poet. Historical about an alternative timeline / life, because obviously, you know, we don't know if that was his life. And also historical about a specific event, because it does talk, when I was reading it anyway, what I got up to, there was talks about one of the times the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, was around. So it was talk about that, and, you know, people stayed away from each other and all the rest of it. So I thought I would use it for that one as well, because I knew I wouldn't be able to finish a book in time to be able to do that. So the next book, well, not the next book, because I did read multiple at the same time with the ebook, but the last book that I was reading for this readathon, and also for a yearly one, but I'll get to that as well, was In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer, or Gabrielle. I think I heard from, oh no, who was it I watched recently? Was it Oshina? Anyway, let's get back to this. So I read, I think it was Oshina or someone anyway, mentioned how to pronounce Gabrielle Meyer's name. Because apparently you pronounce it like Gabriel, like the angel Gabriel, except with L at the end. So yeah, I didn't know that, so I'll try and remember saying the name like that in the future, Gabrielle instead of Gabrielle, which is how I would normally say it. But yeah, so In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer, or Gabrielle Meyer. This is book 2. This is book 2 in the Timeless series. And I used this for the historical book with a dual timeline. Now, I know those of you who have read this, you're probably all telling me that it's not 2 timelines, it's 3. I know. But I used it for that anyway, because I didn't have any other books with dual timelines, so I had to use this. I'm counting it anyway. So, I read this. And this was so much better than the first one. I still don't quite understand what it is I don't like about the first one. I just found the main character, Libby, a bit annoying. Grating on me, and she felt immature even though she was mature. She went through a lot, so obviously she was very mature. But I just don't know what it was about her. I just didn't gel with her as much. But I still loved the book, especially the ending. But this one is definitely better. This one I gave 5 stars. The other one I think I gave 4.5 or 4 stars. I can't remember. Because I did still really enjoy it. I loved the story. I loved the premise. like I said, loved the twist at the end, so which made it. It probably would have been 4 stars otherwise, but I'm pretty sure it's 4.5 after that ending. So yeah, this was so much better. I loved Maggie. I loved the character. I loved the different timelines. I enjoyed I did kind of enjoy the different war-torn places, although 2001 wasn't technically war-torn yet, but you know, those sorts of situations. I really enjoyed how she did it. It wasn't very heavy, I thought myself, but obviously if you're more sensitive you might still find it heavy. I don't know, it's your personal. But I really enjoyed it. I thought, did I think it was funny at all? I probably did. But I had my favourite, and that was Grey. I'm not going to say any more about it, because I don't want to spoil it for other people. But yeah, Maggie has 3 timelines, and that's because both her parents were time crossers. So yeah, so there isn't really much else I want to say with it being a book 2, because they very much are interconnected. You get to see her parents, who are in a part of book 1, in particular Libby, of course, being the main character. You also see Maggie's siblings as well, and it was just it was a lovely book. It was beautiful. You know, I cried at several points. Some really good faith content in it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I haven't really got much else to say. But let's just look at my yearly challenges, because I know I used it for other ones as well. Right, let's have a look. Here we go. So I also used this for Oceana's Read Christian Romance yearly challenge, and I used this for the historical prompt, because obviously historical. I also used in this moment for Teresa's Cozy Reading Challenge, and I used this for A Curious Mind, and that is because of the premise, you know, the fact that they're time crossers and they wake, you know, the characters wake up in different timelines, which is something I've not heard of until I heard about the series, and it's just a curious premise and thinking up, so I used it for that. Right, so that's that one. Let's go with, so I've done Cozy Reading, so let's go with the Princess Bride-athon that Katie did. Did I write anything down for it? No, I did not. Oh, no, I did. Okay. So, the next book I'm going to talk about... Ooh! No. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do it by challenges, because I need to talk to you about one of my books. So, I'll come back to that. So, the next book, which was actually... No, I'll talk about my other ebook that I read. So, the other ebook I read, I also had to DNF, which is unfortunate, and that was The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. Again, I just wasn't interested. I just found either I wasn't understanding it, or it was just written in a way where it didn't explain through certain things happening. So, like, there was a point where some robbers were gonna, like, steal stuff and, like, beg to try and get stuff from, like, you know, local people. And I didn't really know how or why it came to that. Like, the characters turned up when the prince was hiding in a barn or with her family. And, you know, it's them and the pauper's dad, who thinks the prince is the pauper, because that's the whole point. They look identical, which is, let's not get into the whole fact that Henry VIII will definitely have had illegitimate children, which is basically the implication of that story. But besides that, they originally the pauper would know who these other people are, but it was just random. They just took him and convinced the prince, the pauper, to beg and let them lie to, you know, other people about, so they can blag money off them, etc. And I just didn't see why that came up. There was no explanation of how we went from here to here. Like, there was no description. It was just like we were here and then, oh, here we go. And I'm like, huh? I was just very confused reading this book at times. So yeah, if you didn't know, The Prince and the Pauper is basically about Prince/King Edward, who is the only son of King Henry VIII. And so the implications of the fact that a pauper looks just like him, and they were both able to swap places, and no one, and when I say no one, I mean as usual, like with most kids' books, none of the adults could tell the difference, is basically implying that King Henry VIII had illegitimate children, which, to be fair, he will have done. I am not even trying to say that he didn't, because let's be honest, anyone who's heard the history of Henry VIII already had 6 wives, and never mind all of the other ladies and maids that he will have had sex with, and born illegitimate children. So that bit was interesting. Now, am I put off Mark Twain? I don't know. I don't think so. I would possibly try something else of his, but The Prince and the Pauper, I just couldn't get into it. And I tried really hard for that one again. I read about 60% of it. So I read quite a lot of it because I just tried pushing through. But I just wasn't interested. I was bored. Again, there were other things I wanted to read. Unfortunately, it was the William Shakespeare one afterwards, and that didn't do much. But there we go. Just the way it goes sometimes. So I've had the most DNFs I've had in ever. I mean, I've had 2 in 1 month. So that's interesting. So, yes. With that out of the way, let's get to my physical books. So the next book I'm going to talk about, which is my last book that I read of the month, is Frederica by Georgette Heyer, or Heyer. Did I use this? Oh yeah, I used this for Alma's, The Prince and the Pauper. I also used that for Alma's Centuries challenge for, I think, the 1500s. Yeah, the 1500s. What century that is? Good question. And thankfully it's on the other side. The 16th century. So I read that. So I used that one for that prompt. I think that was the only one I used it for. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, it's possible I used it for the Princess Bride-athon for Mistaken Identity. But now I'm not sure because I've written down the month of May for it. I'm trying to think what I read in May that it could have used it for. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Either way, that was for Alma's Journey Through Time. And I also used Frederica for her Journey Through Time decade prompt for June, which is the 1960s. That was when this was published. And this was 5 stars. Loved it. It was funny. I didn't necessarily laugh out loud a lot, but I still found it funny. It was entertaining. It was sweet. I loved the kids in it. She's got 2 younger brothers and a younger sister as well, and another she's the eldest. She's 24, Frederica, title of the book. And she's looking after them, and she's getting her sister and ends up herself coming out in terms of the ton in, well, I think they're in London for this, yeah, in London, to try and get her younger sister a husband. And she also has 3 other younger brothers, one of which is like the head of the family. He's 22. He isn't around as much, but she has 2 younger brothers who are 16 and 12, I think. So yeah, and she basically gets a cousin of sorts, not really cousin, but an acquaintance basically of her father. They briefly kind of knew each other, but not really. But basically she enlists his help and they basically lie about it. And it's basically all about all of that drama about trying to find a husband, all the shenanigans her brothers get up to. Very funny, sweet romance. I love the male main character who, obviously it's a romance, so we all know she's going to marry him. And that is the Marquis of Alverstoke, called, oh no, what's his name? It's not Norbert. What's his name? But anyway, I love him. I always thought Georgette Heyer's books. I always think she writes really good male main characters in terms of the love interests. So yeah, I definitely recommend this if you like Regency romance. It's clean. So far, all of her books I have read are clean. And so on that note, I'm assuming all of her books are clean, but I don't know. I've not read them all, and I've not read that many either. But yeah, I have been collecting them though. As I'm sure some of you will know when you've seen some of my hauls, book hauls. So yeah, I recommend it. It was good fun. It was definitely a good one to end the month on, after having 2 DNFs in a row, essentially. The next book I read was For the Year of Maud, prompts for June, and that was The Blue Castle. And here it is, a stunning cover. I absolutely love it. And this is about a woman called Valency who is just had her 29th birthday. She's been having some health issues that she's been ignoring, and eventually it's so bad that she decides to go to a doctor, and she basically gets told that she has a year to live. And before then, she was very much under the thumb of her mum and aunt. Definitely a controlling family. I don't know if you call it abusive. I feel like you probably would, but I don't know, because my brain, through partly stereotyping but also very real experiences of people, my brain always goes to certain types of abuse, physical, sexual, etc. But I would definitely say they're not a very good family for her to be around, very toxic. They kind of tease her constantly, to the point where you could probably call it bullying as well, other family members, about the fact that she's single. Never been married, never been courted or dated in our modern terms by a man. And she feels that. She would like to experience that, even if she doesn't get married, experience what it's like to be courted. So yeah, and it's basically her being set free from those standards that she's been having to live up to her whole life, of just being basically a doormat and being walked all over. And it's definitely great for that if you like the sort of, not taking revenge, so to speak, but sort of, she gets this new sense of freedom. She stands up for herself. There are times where she stands up for herself, and I think that's probably a bit too far as a Christian. But definitely if you're not a Christian, you would love that. There is a little bit of faith content in it. Probably more so than Anne of Green Gables, but mainly because you hear more about it. I wouldn't say it's more spiritual, like, it's not like In This Moment or Fancying Rivers, it's just a little bit. But yes, there's also a couple of twists in it as well, which I was not expecting. Well, no. One of them I suspected, one of the twists, to do with her favourite author. She has a favourite author that she reads a lot of his books. And basically there's a twist to do with that author. And I did guess that one. But there was also another twist, which I did not get. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, brilliant. It's a really good book. I really recommend it. It's very short, although to be fair, it is small writing. It takes up most of the page, so it's not necessarily a short read like you would expect for a lot of short books like this. But it was really good. It wasn't like a really long read either, but it's not. The size of it is deceptive for the amount of words on the page. So yeah, recommend it. Did I give it 5 stars? Or did I give it 4? 4.5? I can't remember. and I forgot my reading journal, but I will write down which star rating I did give it, because I can't quite remember. It's not lower than a 4, certainly. But I did love it. I loved her relationship with the main character she ends up with. Yeah, lovely book. And it still had Anne vibes, just more adult. I mean, it wasn't adult. It's like adult in terms of Anne when she's in college or a mother, like that sort of adult. Not adult content sort of thing. But yeah, really good book. Really recommend it if you really like I can't say her name. Well, initials. L.M. Montgomery. There we go. Okay, so the last one, did I use the Blue Castle for anything else though? No. Okay, yeah, that was the only one I used it for. Okay. Coffee break. Now, I need to talk to you about Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge for June. The prompt was bird. 1 word prompt, so you can make that fit however you want. Could be bird on the cover, topic, etc. So, if you saw my TBR for June, the book I chose initially was The Great Library of Tomorrow by Rosalia Aguilar Solis. This is a fantasy and decently big. I was going to read this, and I still want to. However, as you may or may not know, in the month of May, I read the Hunger Games book, the first one. And since then, and since rewatching the film, as well as rereading the book, I've read the book before, I've kept getting wanting, desiring, craving, if you would like, to read Catching Fire, the sequel. And guess what's on the cover of my Catching Fire book? A bird. So obviously, I had to swap it out. So I swapped The Great Library of Tomorrow for Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins, and I read this instead. Because I just wanted to read this a lot more than I wanted to read the other book. I do want to read the other book at some point now. So I read this, and this was 5 stars. Hands down 5 stars. Better than The Hunger Games, the first book in my opinion, although that was still really good. I gave that 4.5 stars. But this felt more, I think it's because there was more at stake with this one. And I think that's why I enjoyed it a lot more. There was a lot more going on, whereas The Hunger Games was like an introduction, because you've got the games. You still have the games with this. I'm not going to talk much about it because either, if you don't know, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you do know, which I'm sure most of you do, we all know what happens. Fantastic book. Love it. Oh, it's just so good. So I'm hoping, as I'm sure you are aware if you've seen my TBR for July, I'm hoping to get to the 3rd, Mockingjay. And yes, last night, as I'm filming this, I did watch the film of Catching Fire. And you know what I keep forgetting to mention when I talked about the Hunger Games is that I would love to see a book/film of what happened before all of this in terms of District 13 or what made them get to this point where they had to, have the Hunger Games, where, what happened to cause it to be a dystopian society. Like, was it worldwide? Was it just in America? Like, I have questions, okay? I want to know the questions. But obviously they won't talk about that. But I would love that, though, to have books on those. Like what happened to District 13 and all the rest of it. Now, I don't remember if it goes into detail in Mockingjay about District 13. So, yeah. I do prefer the books to the films. The films are really good in my opinion. But the books are better. Like, there were things they missed out in the film that I would have loved to have seen. Like when Katniss meets those 2 ladies in the woods who escaped from District 8. Like, the whole skin issue that they had from the fog. like they did it straight away, like she knew what she needed to do. But yeah, I did enjoy it though, the film. Hoping to get to book 3. It worked. Sorry, I paused you and it actually worked. I unpaused and it worked. Okay, brilliant. I don't know where I'm up to. I was talking about Catching Fire, wasn't I? So yeah, books definitely better than the films. As always, more details. But I did enjoy the films. So, that is actually all of my fiction. However, I do have an extra book that's non-fiction. And I don't actually remember when I started this. I think I started this during Lent. So it's quite a while ago. And that is Leading Intercessions. This is prayers for Sundays, holy days and festivals. Years A, B and C. This is basically a Church of England cycle of prayers that people who do the intercessions do in our church services, or at least they used to. I don't actually know if they still use this, but they'll certainly use bits and similar outlines. But basically my grandma had this and she said I should give it a read, see what it's like. I was like, alright then. It was fine. I'm not really going to rate it because all it is prayers. It's not, and it's just, I didn't really get anything out of it, but it was fine. Yeah, I don't know where you can get it if you're interested, but I assume you probably know. But if you are, you might find it somewhere online, maybe. I don't know. My grandma got this from a charity shop, I think, years ago. But yeah, I read and finished this, and I finished it this month, last month in June. So yeah, I thought I'd just mention that I read that. It was fine. So I think that's all of the books that I have read in June. Yeah, not really got anything else to say really for that one. Yeah, I had a decent reading month really. I did better than I thought. I read and finished 4 fictions, DNF 2, my ebooks, and then finished 1 non-fiction. So I did pretty well really. I would say probably about average to what I normally read. Some months I read a lot more, like I did in May. I read like 8 books. So yeah. That's all I have to say. I will leave you all to it. How did your June reading go? Did you read any good books? Were there any books you weren't fussed about or you didn't like or DNF'd? Let me know down in the comments. I always endeavour to read and comment back at some point. Sometimes I'm late, sometimes because it just gets busy. / I get distracted. All of that stuff. So yeah, I will leave you all to it, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye. Oh, and God bless.